earlier today, there was some more news that came out regarding DK Metcalf. I'll share it here from Diana Rossini on X. She says the Seahawks are seeking a first and a third round pick for wide receiver DK Metcalf per sources. Metcalf is also eyeing a new contract worth around $30 million per year. Multiple teams have inquired. All right, so if DK is going to be worth if you're going to have to give a first round pick and a third round pick for DK Metcalf, that is not something the Packers should do. I do not think that DK Metcalf is worth a first and a third. Now, personally, I'd be fine if the Packers gave a second round pick, maybe a third round pick for DK Metcalf, but because you have to pay him so much money, I do not think it's worth to give a first and a third. I think you're much better off if you really want to get a new receiver using a first round pick on one as opposed to trading for a DK for a first round pick, just because if you draft a first round pick receiver, then, first round receiver, then you get him on a cheap rookie deal for 4 seasons. And I feel like nowadays, because of just how things work with receivers in college and, as they develop faster these years, I just feel like there are a lot more guys where in year one, they are producing at a pretty high level, guys who get drafted in round 1. So I just don't think it's worth it to give up that much for DK Metcalf, just because I think the Packers could do a lot of other things at receiver to make them completely fine for 2025. Now, if the Packers had no receiver talent in my mind, then, and you really needed to boost the room, okay, maybe you trade a first. I just don't think the Packers need DK Metcalf that bad. I would much rather, sign Devontae Adams to a 1-year, $15 million deal than give DK or have to trade a first and a third for DK Metcalf. I think the Packers would be much better off if they're really going to trade that for DK Metcalf to use that on a potential edge rusher like a Trey Hendrickson. I just think that the Packers need an edge rusher much more than they need a receiver. And so I just think that's a little bit of an overpay for a guy like DK Metcalf. I think he's a very good receiver, and I think you would make the Packers better overall. I just don't think he's that level of receiver. I think he's a very good receiver. I don't think he's an elite receiver. I think when you look at Devontae Adams being traded away from Green Bay a few years ago, he goes for a first and a second, but he was playing as like the top receiver in the NFL at that time. He was 29 years old. I think DK is a little bit younger than that, maybe 2 years younger. And so Devontae went for a first and a second. I just think that at that time, Devontae was the best receiver in the NFL. And I don't even know if DK's, I mean, he's probably not in the top 10. I don't know if he's in the top 15. Maybe top 15. I'd have to look at the receivers. I just don't know if he's in the top 10. So for a guy, I mean, if you could trade for, one of the top 5 receivers in the league, I'd give a first and a third probably. But for DK, I'm just not sure. And there's no, slight towards DK Metcalf. He's a very good player. I just think that based on need, based on the receivers the Packers already have, they just don't need to give away that much draft capital for a receiver. So we'll keep an eye on this, and we'll see if anyone in the NFL really wants to trade away that much draft capital for DK Metcalf when, there are a lot of talented young receivers out there. So we'll keep an eye on this one. I just don't think they're going to get what they want for DK, and so the Packers could still maybe be interested, potentially. We don't know if they ever were for sure. There were conflicting reports that I shared. But I just wanted to share that most recent news just to keep you up to date with the DK Metcalf situation. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.